What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast. Today, we're interviewing Mr. Chris Robinette. Chris, how you feeling today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Josh. How's it going, my friend?
It's doing awesome. Feeling great myself.
Outstanding.
Love it. So, Chris, nice to meet you, man. I know you and Joshua, have a history, but this is our first time getting together. So, appreciate you coming on. I like to kick things off with, the title of the show is Entrepreneurship Sucks, and I feel like everybody has a different kind of reaction and interpretation of that before they come on the show, and they have their own kind of definition of what that actually means to them and their journey, right? So, I like to kick things off with asking you, what does entrepreneurship sucks mean to you, man?
Man, the easiest way for me to think about it is you work 80 hours a week so you don't ever work 40 for someone else. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of ends up being the epitome of where it all begins. And the suck side of entrepreneurship is there's so many different ways everybody could go about building a company that there's a lot of competition and there's not as much collaboration. And I think, a lot of the sucky stuff in the space nowadays is too many people are worried about, hey, don't take my trade secrets, don't do this, don't do that, when in actuality, sharing best practices is some of the fastest ways for us all to grow companies. And so, that's kind of where I think about a lot of times is where am I failing so that I learn faster? Because the faster I fail, the faster I learn. The faster I learn, the more likely I am to be successful. The more successful I am, the more confidence I build. The more confidence I build, the easier it is to do my job. The easier it is to do my job, the less I actually have to work, because then it's just fun and excitement and helping grow clients and grow other people in coaching and stuff like that. So I think that'd be my quick 30-second blurb on.
Yeah, that's not exactly that similar to there's a scripture that talks about the building of endurance and building of your character. That's a pretty parallel answer to that scripture. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of some of the stuff that you sent me this morning on Taylor's podcast, actually.
Yeah, I still listen to Daily Mind Medicine.
Proximity, hive
absolutely.
Yeah, they just started refilming updated Daily Mind. They're starting right now to make new ones.
I saw there was a little bit of a gap, and then I saw that 6 hours ago he released one, and I was like, I'm gonna listen to that. That was super good. So,
well, they started that in the deep end or off the deep end for a while, and they're just rebuilding it. It's great, long form
so
too.
Good. Yeah,
I was kind of excited actually when you invited me to come do this, and we blocked off 2 hours. I was like, oh yes, there is not going to be a rush. We're going to just hang with the boys for the morning.
Yes,
and then just shoot the shit and chill and just get to hang and.
There's the vision for this is to have a studio in Nashville whenever Kevin gets his butt down here, and we're gonna have like he mentioned, the vision for this when we were explaining is cigars, kind of back on the in the golf club. Man, we don't have all that going on, but we'll definitely have you back on whenever we have the whole setup going, so we can actually experience the full vibe.
We have we just moved offices. We're down in Brentwood, so we're just kind of below, about 10 miles south of Nashville. And we were in 12 Cadillac, and we literally moved to the building next door for 10 Cadillac because we just did a $250,000 revamping and all new office space. And so we just updated our lease and moved to the other building. But in the old building, I had a whole liquor cabinet of just multiple different types of bourbons and some whiskeys and tequilas and stuff that clients would bring when they would come visit. They're like, hey man, I saw in one of your, cause I filmed the podcast a long, long time ago with a buddy, and they saw it kind of off in the corner. And then people started bringing it in. They're like, hey, I saw you didn't have a bottle of, so I brought you. And so we started hosting happy hours for just local clients and friends to come by to just kind of hey, hang out. Everybody just grab a drink. Let's talk about some big ass problems you got going on. Where you at in life. And just, it wasn't for soliciting business. It was more let's just hang, especially for people in Maryland Farms where it was so hard to get out because of traffic. I'm like, hey, swing by the office, have a cocktail or two, hang for a little bit, go home at 5:30 once most of the traffic's cleared out. And it was so successful when we moved businesses. I took all the bottles and I took them home, and I haven't brought them back yet. And I'm like, I probably should like get back to that. But
Yeah,
when you
bring them
said
back.
cigars in the studio, that took it to a whole nother level. I was like, bro,
I've seen people do that. I'm like smoking
I
inside,
know that's like, I don't
in a
own this
ventilation
building.
system.
I don't own this building, so there's no cigars in this building. But it made me think of I might need to buy a commercial office space just for entrepreneur hangouts. We get everybody can get a little key code, and then just charge people to come be members just so they can drink bourbon and smoke cigars and then talk about business.
Yeah, man.
That is literally the most perfect vision of what we want this to become.
Yep. So
So when you
when
put
I
your
get down
podcast
there,
in,
I'm coming down there. My son is starting high school, and my daughters, I have twin 5-year-old daughters that are starting kindergarten. So the push is over the course of the next 2 months or so to get down there before school starts. But yeah, we'll definitely link up, and maybe we can collaborate on something like that.
Sure.
So, all right,
Well,
man.
let's dive in.
Yeah. So, how? Let's start at the beginning, man. Like, why don't we? I like to just kind of go all the way back to like, what was the first time where, like, Chris, you decided that I'm not going to work for anybody else. I'm going to work for myself. I'm going to bet on myself. And we'll start from there, man.
so I was born at 3:28 p.m. on a Tuesday. So I would say probably 3:29. I decided I want to be independent.
Oh man,
I'm a
that's awesome.
Virgo, so it's just, I don't trust anybody, and then I trust everybody. So it's a dichotomy. Um, so it's funny, kind of like how life rolls, I guess. Going way, 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 way back, high school, I did some internships at a brokerage house in Oklahoma City. So it was kind of like a subset for the New York Stock Exchange because it was like one of the regional terminals where they take a lot of the stuff in and process it. And I was like, this is awesome. I really like the idea of doing stocks and trading and being a, floor trader and stuff like that because that's what we did at the internship. And then I was lifeguarding at the Y and at the city pool, all throughout the summer and stuff. And then it was just like getting little tiny paychecks. But then I'm like watching the dudes that are owning their little LLCs that are helping all run this exchange. And I'm like, man, this is dope. I like this. I should do more things like that. Then fast forward, I decided to go to college and went to the Naval Academy and wanted to really serve, wanted to go to the fleet. I like the ideas of all that stuff. So I went right back into that W-2 mindset and kind of the building and serving the country and stuff like that. And I was probably 6 years in. I was wrapping up building the George H.W. Bush aircraft carrier, and I'm talking to all the contractors who are all prior Navy guys that are all running their own little contracting companies and subcontractors and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, that's the life. He's doing exactly what I'm doing for 3 times the pay, and he sets his own hours. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm trying to go home and hang out with my wife and kids. And they're like, actually, no, you're going to stay here a little longer. And so before I even got into entrepreneurship, I was always looking about how great entrepreneurship could be. So when I was coming off my MBA at the University of Oklahoma, had an offer to do mergers and acquisitions with JP Morgan up in New York City. And I was getting divorced. I was having my second kid. I was getting out of the Navy. I liked the idea of like $250,000 of pay. Now in New York City, that's like $80K in Oklahoma. And so I was like, man, it's just going to be so many hours and my kids are going to be in South Carolina. And I just don't know if I really want to pull the trigger. And at the exact same time, I'm thinking about my own financial life that my family had gone through. My mom passed away in 2005, a couple of days after my birthday. And I was in the middle of the Adrian Sea heading to the Indian Ocean because we were deploying to Iraq. So it ended up taking 10 days to get back home. And in this journey back to Oklahoma City, my sister's kind of getting hoodwinked on how things are going in the trust. And like, she's kind of getting told, hey, this thing versus that thing. I'm swiping a credit card on a $5 a minute satellite phone. And I'm just like, we need to figure out my mom's estate and all this stuff. And it ended up costing my sister and I about $1.3 million just because things all kind of fell apart after my mom passed away. But my mom and I never really had wealth transfer discussions. We never really had discussed, even knowing she had, terminal cancer and all this stuff would be a problem. She was always like, your grandparents will take care of it. You don't need to worry about it. Like, everybody's got everything. And so my sister and I were kind of always out of the loop. And then we ended up having to be the ones making all the decisions. And I realized I could go to JP Morgan and do mergers and acquisitions, or I could kind of start taking that stuff that I had always kind of dwelled on since my mom passed away and start saying, how do we teach families how to take care of themselves and do the multi-generational wealth transfer? How do we show them the family values and the principles and the knowledge that do the wealth creation in a manner that's allowing them to pass on their vision? So I ended up punting the JP Morgan. I had a job offer here in Nashville, and I decided to jump on that, try to rebuild a relationship with my dad since my parents got divorced when I was 5. He'd owned his own dental clinics for his whole life. My mom had owned all of her dental clinics in Oklahoma. So I kind of grew up in 2 different households of dentists that were entrepreneurs running their own businesses. So I just kind of really leaned in on that about wanting to own my own financial planning firm. And, now I own Lighthouse Planning, created in 2019, started the business in 2011, co-founded a planning firm with about 7 other people in 2014, going into 15, did that for 4 years, and then, shifted this thing on my own. So, I'm 5 years in to having our own kind of shop and marketing brand and stuff like that. And it's just absolutely amazing knowing that we can set all of our terms and decide all the stuff we want to do and how we want to help all of our clients, to where now I go out speaking on coaching stuff. I don't even go speak on financial planning most of the time. I go speak out on coaching. I go speak out on mindset. I go speak out on like how to launch a company and how to go through the entrepreneur's journey and things like that. And you can't do any of that as a W-2. And so all the long, hard hours, all the just eating shit and getting told no all the time, and like making sure you got cash in the bank because you still got to cover payroll. There's all this risk involved. And all that risk ends up creating so much more of the reward that it's like, man, you get so much more of a sense of pride of being able to cultivate and build your own little baby, and then watch it, now watching it grow up and doing all these things that it's doing. And it's just freaking awesome,
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of different things we could dive into. Kevin, what stood out most to you about all that?
I don't know. I just I was kind of captivated about through the whole process. But I guess first and foremost, if we like go back to like when you first made the decision, let's talk about that first year, and dive a little bit deeper into taking that leap, turning down the JP Morgan offer, and that.
Can you actually hear Kevin? Because I can't hear a word he's saying.
Oh, really? You can't hear
what
me?
He's saying?
He's not even on my screen anymore. It's just me. It says it's me and you.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
He can hear you, but you can't see him?
No, I just see me and you right now, brother.
Kevin, you can hear Chris.
Yeah, I can
Chris
hear him.
Can't hear Kevin. That's so
What
weird.
happened? Did I die?
You're definitely not in the studio.
That's
Up from
weird.
Chris's side. Well, we're gonna already have to edit this post production. It's okay. All right. What do you want to try to rejoin, Kevin?
Yeah, I guess.
It's so weird. It's the first time
All right,
that's happened.
I'll be back.
I was just looking at it's just me and you in here.
Yeah.
Kevin's like, I've been over here
sucks.
getting coffee, listening to all this stuff, and then you're out.
Yeah, man. Because he left and rejoined. Can you see him now?
Yeah, he's right there.
All right. So
Can't hear me.
can you hear me? All right, cool. So yeah, let's go.
I just figured you turned your camera off because you had to go like take a poop or something.
No, man. Already took care of that before we hopped on, man.
Yeah.
Gotta be prepared.
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to with all that coffee you're downing over there, Chris. If you gotta take a run, just let
hold
us
on.
know.
Is my mind playing tricks on me, or is he drinking out of like 2 or 3 different mugs? All right. Okay. I'm like, what is happening right now? All right, cool. So yeah, man, let's go back to that first.
About 30 minutes, the intern's going to come in here and refill them for me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to drink them all over again.
Oh man.
All three of them.
So let's
All
go
right.
back to that first year, man, where you turned down the J.P. Morgan offer, and you went on your own and started building this thing. Like, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Where you
Um,
want now?
Yeah, so like, I just want to know, like, during that time, right? Like, you had this big offer on the table, and you had this, this plan, this idea, but like, what did that journey look like? Did you already have things mapped out, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this because I already have this planned out, or what was that leap like?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So I flew to Nashville. No, that's a lie. I drove into Nashville for a Preds playoff game, and Arkansas had just flooded. Tennessee, it was the year after the flood, so the Bridgestone Arena had been repaired and stuff like that from 2010. But Arkansas was flooded. I-40 was all backed up, and I'm over here thinking, like, man, I'm not driving from Oklahoma to Nashville. I should have just flown. Like, this is dumb. And but I was still in the Navy, making 75 a year, 78, and brought one of my friends. So we're just like 10-hour road trip. Let's go. But when I got here, and I'm sitting at the table watching the game, one of the guys at the table was a financial advisor that used to work for Northwestern Mutual in Nashville. And we just kind of got to talking, and I was telling him all about, mergers and acquisitions and why I think this is really cool. And he's like, cool, but who's your client? All my clients were just going to be companies. It wasn't actually going to be the owners. It was going to be ABC is selling to XYZ. And my whole transition is get the maximum amount of value of ABC for XYZ. And it didn't really matter what happened to the owners, the staff, the teams, or anything else like that. The good ones would be kept. The other ones would just be thrown away.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm kind of sitting there talking to that guy, and he's like, yeah, I've been helping families in Perry County and Hickman and, Clarksville and, people making 80K a year, and they rely on me because no one's ever there to help them. And you can't just, I don't want a company that's all based on, the big guy. I want to help the little guy. And I started thinking about it because here I am making 78K a year. And I was going to be literally knocking on doors and making calls all day long for companies like, are you interested in selling? There's someone wanting to acquire you. And then do the whole song and dance. And I would have been a very highly compensated employee.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to be following the scripts, the playbooks, and all the other things on how their mergers and acquisitions department said to do things. And when I started thinking about the personal side, I was like, man, there's so many people I could help that don't realize how much help they need because no one's ever sat down and just started advocating for them without having to sell them something.
Right.
And so like our business in the finance world, there's three sides. There's a tax side, a legal side, and a financial side.
Mm-hmm.
All we do is the financial side. I've stayed at Holiday Inn Expresses enough times in my life to understand some tax and some legal, but it's like you need the attorney, you need the tax strategist, you need the different components of how you're building your entity structures and stuff like that. And that's not all me. And so I realized so early on, right before I even started this job, I was like, I could really dive in and go work for this company and kind of learn how to do this stuff on the personal side. And then I could start building relationships and, centers of influence, they call them. So start building relationships with collaborative partners that are like, hey, you understand all the taxes. Like, I'd love to get my clients in front of you. Then let me talk to your clients. Hey, you understand how to do wills and set up a business, make sure the entities are correct. I'd love to get my clients in front of you. And then maybe you can refer me some people. And then what I learned was I'm overly giving to everybody. Not everybody's overly giving back to me. And so as part of the sucky part of entrepreneurship, you want to do all the best you can for clients. And so you freely give them to other people that can do those roles. Mm-hmm. Then in the back of my mind, I'm always like, I hope you don't send my client to another financial planner because you went to college with the guy. I mean, I'd really not be happy with that. And, I actually have a story on that too, because 3 years in, I took a person to a private banking. They got about $5 million. They needed some private banking resources. took them to a bank downtown that I just started doing some collaboration with because they didn't do insurance, investments, or planning. But then the banker decided they wanted to go work at a different place that did it. Called every client they had and be like, well, you should let us run your wealth because we run your bank accounts. And we had about $2 million for the client at the time. And he's like, hey, I'm just going to go with them because they run my bank accounts. So they said it's easier. Like, didn't even consult me on like why we should be separate. Was just like, well, since they run my bank accounts, I should probably just do my investment there. And I was like, not that that's a horrible idea or a great idea. Every person has their own customized path that they're going to follow. But I was so mad that I lost one of the largest accounts I'd gotten in the first couple of years of starting business because I introduced them to someone to try to help them. And that person had zero qualms with snaking the client from me.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of sucks on the entrepreneur side of that.
That does suck.
But then, even if I went W-2 at JP Morgan, there would constantly be people snaking M&A deals out from underneath me, So at least here I controlled the outcome, Fired the client, sent them on their way, never had to deal with it again, went out and started meeting new people, fired the COI, killed the entire relationship with that bank, moved all the other clients that were at that bank to another bank, and just kind of kept on. And I realized I can do this because I own the company. I literally am advising and guiding my clients to a future that they're trying to build. And because I own this firm, it sucked I lost one, but I learned a quick lesson on how to make sure we're better protecting all the other clients we have, because there's always somebody knocking on the door to try to crush our clients as a company. And so it's like, hey, I kind of just got crushed, but let me share this example with you so we can make sure your company is protected from other people outside trying to snake your clients from you. And so you can't see it. There's a whole board right here of all my planning clients. And I would say 85 of them are entrepreneurs and business owners. And like, that's some of the best conversations we have. Like sometimes we never talk financial planning. We'll get on 60-minute catch up and we're talking mindset. We're talking maybe their P&Ls. We're talking how they're trying to add staff or remove staff, or how this other business opened up 2 blocks away and is trying to steal their clients. And here's where they're stressed out and stuff.
Interesting.
And it's amazing because being 13 years in the business, I understand how to talk the entrepreneur side of life and the business, almost consulting side of life, without just saying, well, we should take $2,000 a month and stick it in your investment account and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so, it's so much more open architecture being the entrepreneur, because you can really take it any company you want, any direction you want. And if I would have stayed W-2, I would never have the opportunity to consult these people, because they'd be like,
it's so much more fulfilling because you get to let the relationships take the forefront of the of the entire relationship, right? And then the business just becomes secondary. Like, oh crap, before we wrap up, like maybe we should take care of the stuff we came here to do, right? And it's just more fulfilling. Like, you end up, your Rolodex becomes relationships instead of clients, just clients. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I love that.
That's so good.
Everybody talks to your network is your net worth, and I think truly entrepreneurs, I think, embrace that so much more than just an employee. We're
intentional about it.
My kid's mom works from 8 to 5, 5 days a week, and she comes home, she's clocked, she's done. She doesn't care. She makes some food, she jams out for a couple hours of TV, she goes to bed, she gets up, she does it again the next day. As soon as she's out of work, she's like, I'm out. I go home. I'm like, cool, I'm going to go take a walk around the block and get a couple miles in because I just want to kind of detox from the day. But as I'm walking around the block, I'm like, I should probably call this client. I should probably check in on this person.
Keep working because you're crazy, an entrepreneur, right? Yeah.
I got 2 to 3 people I'm just touching base with. No agenda, no thoughts. Just like, hey, man, I just want to call you. I'm out for a walk, and it's a great day and haven't talked to you. And I'm always on. And so it's hard when I go home to not always be on. But it's so much more fulfilling to me with the opportunity of being on all the time. It's just, hey man, I saw this thing and I think it'd be amazing for your company. Yeah. Wow. You should go try to do it.
While we're on the topic of relationships, I recently went through, and maybe you can pinpoint in your story a pivotal moment when you started focusing more on relationships rather than clients. And but we recently went through this whole kind of like dying off of the first iteration of all the clients that we were taking on. And
Mm-hmm.
relationships became much more of a priority focus for us and working with the right people.
Yeah.
And we had like straight up, we had a few nightmare clients. I mean, they brought out the demons in Joshua that needed to be addressed, and the limiting mindsets, the dependencies, and all that stuff. And so, early on in our venture here, we quickly realized who we wanted to work with and learned how to say no to the wrong type of clients. I'm sure you have I have tons of stories from the financial industry of working with old, painful, annoying clients, because you're working with their money, their livelihood. So that's a whole different level of vulnerability.
Yeah, a lot of them don't have any boundaries. And
Yeah.
even if they have their own boundaries, they don't respect yours.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
I
so
worked for Bank of
interesting.
America and Wells Fargo, and it was like some of the 18 months, probably the worst 18 months, or at least up there in the top three. It was just, I couldn't do it, man. I went from, uh, we had our son. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to
Mhm.
get out of, I was like 25, 26. I'm like, I'm going to get out of retail sales and I'm going to go into banking. Became a personal banker and was going into the financial aspect of things over there. Um, and quickly realized I'm like, oh no, this is not for me. And moved on. Um, so yeah, totally get it, man. When you're dealing with people's money, especially when, I know my grandfather in particular, right? He grew up a farm boy, and he's very frugal with his money. He's saved a lot. He's invested a lot, and I would never want him as a client. He's awesome. I love my grandfather, but like I hear him on the phone when he's talking about his money, man. I don't want to be on the other
Yeah.
end of that.
I flew down to Fort Lauderdale Monday morning to go to game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals with a client. And I ended up moving my flight. I was supposed to land at 5. I moved my flight to land at 11 to go see a prospect who was like, hey, if you ever come back down. I was like, actually, I'm coming tomorrow. So, yeah, let me just change my flight. Spent 4 or 5 hours with him. And it's very interesting, the dichotomy of it, because his business partner is already my client. So I'm explaining to him how we work with the business owners, how we help, figure out what your company entrepreneur, enterprise value is. And here's some gaps and things you should work on. And here's a bunch of introductions we can make. And great guy. But he's like, why would I hire you? He already hired you. I was like, cool. Well, then I'm not going to help you with your company. He's like, well, he hired you. I was like, great. And I'm going to work on all of his stuff. But it has absolutely no reason to work on your stuff. And he's like, but why? We paid you. I was like, actually, no, his LLC paid me. Your business actually paid me nothing. And your entire vision of like how I can help you revolves around you wanting me to answer every question for you because you bought me lunch, but you don't want to actually pay for our services. I literally can't help you because you're never going to respect anything I say, because you're never going to pay for it. And you're going to constantly be like, well, why did he pay for you then? And the dude looked at me, he goes, I might hire you. I just got to know your resources. I was like, no, what you want me to do is tell you how to do every bit of this in the next 2 hours without looking through any of your stuff, and then give you all my resources so that they can go do it for you and you can just skip out on me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of taken aback because I was like, I don't mind being blunt anymore. It's so kind of like your grandfather. I'm a little blunt with some people nowadays because, like Joshua was saying, like you don't want to work with everybody. And I'm going to work with this dude, but I just have to also remind him, I was like, just because your business partner works with us doesn't mean you just come on as a free ride. Like I need you to want to be invested in this as well. And towards the end of the day of hanging out, he was like, dude, I'm in. This is great. I appreciate all this other stuff, but there's
some mindset coaching too. You kind of corrected how he was thinking. It's interesting how no matter what profession you get into, you got to teach your clients how to think sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's great to have those opportunities to share with them because most people are afraid to just be honest. And I find the more honest we can be with somebody, the better we're going to nurture and build the relationship, because people don't respect yes people. people respect the much more blunt, unfiltered version that they get because they know they're getting an honest, truthful statement. And even if it's ripping the Band-Aid off sometimes, they'd rather have that than a slow festering wound that just stays infected because no one wants to tell them this is a big problem in your business.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the conversation we were having yesterday, Josh, about, when he said, people respect when you're honest. It's like, telling people what they want to hear versus telling people what they need to hear is such a huge gap. And like, sometimes you can't tell, right? Like we have a client. Well, he's not our client yet. Actually, we had a call with him and everything was great. He's super successful. Like everything lined up. And then, sent the proposal. He signed the proposal. Figuring out payment terms, sent him the invoice. Like everything was good. And then all of a sudden now it's been like, I don't know, a month. We followed up a couple times. I'm not going to chase anybody down. But I asked Josh yesterday, I'm like, dude, I was like, just shoot him a message and be like, hey man, like I'm kind of confused and I don't usually let like deals that don't close kind of like live rent free in my head. But this one is really weird to me. So like everything seemed like it was good. Like, is there something that maybe I need to know that I don't know? Like that we can talk about so we can help move, like either we're going to get you over the finish line or we're not. And either way is cool. But like, I just feel weird about this and I don't normally care. So can we figure that out?
did they reply?
I don't know. Did you send the message, Josh?
No,
This was last night.
he hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't replied yet.
Josh was at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah, I was operating.
I want to go.
Yeah, you're gonna go. I got a lot of spots I gotta take you. Chris knows some spots too.
Cool.
Dude, that is like the life I live in right now.
Yeah.
That you said that, Kevin. I got introduced to some people back in like October, November, and they got millions sitting in the bank right now. And like they're not high yield savings. They're not efficiently holding the money. They're losing out to inflation. They're just parked it for their company, which is great because the company is making good ROI. So it will work out. We finally got a meeting in April. Got both business owners. We were on the call. We go for the whole hour. We get to the end. They're like, hey, I'm in. How much is it? I told them. They're like, oh, it's cheaper than I thought it would be. I was like, well, I'm not here to rob you guys blind. I'm here to actually help you, Came from a referral from the estate planning attorney that I work with, and it was great. It's June 13th. I've heard back from one of the two business owners once, and he messaged me going, hey, man, we didn't forget about you. After I sent him a meme going, hey, you still there?
Yeah, I love it. Yes.
About you, right? It was April 2nd, May 13th. It's now June 13th. I sent him an email yesterday. I was like, hey, listen, I must have completely misunderstood where I thought we left this, because when I was getting off the call, you both said, wow, that's cheaper than we thought it was going to be. This sounds great. Let's get going. I would like to move some of this money soon so we can start making money, which would have fully covered the entire year's bill in 3 months. And then I basically would have had 9 months of working for free or then making more money, plus everything else we would have got into and learned. And I haven't heard from him in 11 weeks. I emailed them on Tuesday. It's Thursday. Neither one of them even responded to the email. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if we're not moving forward, can you just tell me so I can erase you off this board?
What do you think it is? I mean, there's like something in the back of their head they're like holding on? They're like, yes, I want to, but I'm not going to tell you why I'm not.
Well, it's like people are so afraid of conflict. Mm-hmm. And people in my world, right, because our main business is financial planning, so few people have a lot of financial literacy. They feel like I don't know a lot of this stuff, and so therefore I don't want to do any of it because I'll have to go learn all of it, and I don't have time to learn all of it. Mm-hmm. When in actuality, like one of the best reasons to hire a financial planner is so you can ask them all the questions so they can help you figure out all the answers so you don't have to go learn all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I kind of get lost in these conversations with business owners sometimes, because I'm like, you literally said you have no clue what you're doing and you need help. I offer to help you and you say, yeah, I'm in. And then you don't respond to a single message from my staff for weeks. and then you message me saying, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. And then you go another 5 weeks without responding or messaging anything, and then don't respond to the next follow-up.
Yeah.
But what's funny is, like, I only really bring on one, maybe 2 clients a month for me. All the rest of them go to the team. So in April, I put these people as my 2 for the month. So I didn't really even try to bring on anyone for April. They ended up shooting me in the foot for April because I was assuming they were in.
Yeah, you were thinking
they were
to
in.
move forward. That's crazy.
And then here I go. I probably missed out on, some revenue I could have made because I was pushing other people till May. And then one of the guys in May called me. I met him from Taylor also, and he was like, hey, man, I really want to do some whole life. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm making some good money. And I was like, well, let's sit and talk about all of it. We spent about 45 minutes together. He's a brilliant dude. He's making 50, 60K a month right now and spending 50, 60K of it right back into his company. He's not really paying himself anything because he doesn't need to. But he's like, hey, I really want to do some of this whole life. So I'm kind of breaking down some ideas. And then it kind of followed up with, have you ever thought about doing planning? Because you were sticking so much back into your company. Like, let's really optimize that ROI and then decide, hey, if there anything else we should do before we just dive into a whole life product. And what it kind of came from it was he came for a transaction to make me an order taker to just do the one product without wanting to look at his overarching portfolio. And then we come back around. He's like, I've never actually thought of it that way. I thought I had to have different people for all these different things.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do a plan. And then he's like, yeah, I'm in. That's perfect. Let's go. And so there's other people out there that think maybe there's only one thing that you can help with. But if you take the time to advocate and educate for them and really be like, hey, before we go commit $100,000 a year to something that you don't really know why you want it other than you saw TikTok on you should do it, why don't we figure out how the whole thing fits in your plan first? And then this dude was super grateful.
Yeah.
1 month apart, still business owners, still making a bunch of excessive capital. But the one person was like, well, I came for this one thing, but I actually don't know any of this other stuff. Can you actually help? And now is in, and we're doing docs and we're actually training and teaching and everything. It's like, this is everything I've been looking for. I didn't know people did this. And so it's just weird. Like you guys were talking about a minute ago about, finding those perfect clients and being able to actually help the right kind of people. You got to kind of shoot your shot at all of them
to find out.
You think they're the right kind of people. And it's not until you really meet with them do you even truly know if their follow-up game sucks, or if they're just pumping you for free information, or if they're actually, hey man, I actually want to work with you. So this is where entrepreneurship sucks.
Yeah, definitely. What I will say is that, in my experience, is that even though most people look at it kind of the same way, if let's put it this way, there's a huge difference in my experience between entrepreneurs and business owners, right? Mm-hmm. So like, business owners, they don't make fast decisions. They're not decisive. Most business owners that I've dealt with, it's like it's almost like they're glorified employees because they're getting paid to run the company, versus entrepreneurs. Like if you built the company and you built it with like bootstrapping and you had to hire coaches, now you're coachable. You've been through personal development. Like there's just a whole other like world of, in my opinion, between entrepreneurs and business owners. I mean, there's business owners you can talk to that have never heard of Jim Rohn, don't know who Tony Robbins is, like just core stuff that really should just be a part of your entrepreneurial journey, whatever, whether it be personal development or having a coach or things like that. And that's where I feel like the biggest gap is, where I get confused. I don't really, if we're going to put a blanket over it, it's tough to work with business owners. I find that entrepreneurs tend to be our best clients.
Yep.
They're coachable. They respect our leadership because of our area of expertise. They've done their own personal development, and they've gone through their own, like it's more of internal things, right?
Super, super deep when you kind of put it that way, because business owners have a high-paying job, but they can't walk away from the company because the job needs them.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs have a high-paying vision and idea, and they delegate to other people to help implement on said idea so they can continuously focus on the next idea they want to go after.
Yep. And the super smart and super successful ones, they build their business around their life. So like we had our last podcast episode, after we hopped off, we were having a private conversation with the guest, and she had mentioned Ty Lopez and how like she had gone and she was a guest coach for one of his events, and she's like he was like so aloof, it was so unorganized, and I'm like, yeah, but all that is by design. He's designed his entire life. He's designed all his business ventures around his life so that his businesses make his life as abundant in his vision of what he wants his life to be as possible. So like, I'm like, your perspective is the reason that you think like kind of have a negative feeling about it. But I'm like, he built all this to be able to live the life that he lives.
Yep.
So it's a huge difference. And that comes down to, again, like, the personal development journey. You go through like spiritual stuff when you're really like bootstrapping and like trying to build something and you have this big vision. There's a lot of outside of this third dimensional reality stuff that either pushes you or holds you back that you have to hurdle around and stuff. That's not business ownership. That's entrepreneurship, right?
You're saying you've gone down to Costa Rica to do ayahuasca?
No, I haven't. One of our guests lived in a treehouse in Costa Rica for like 3 months. He quit. He was at 21. He was Robert Kiyosaki's sales manager. He quit, grabbed a backpack, and went to live in a treehouse in Costa Rica for 3 months. So not me, but somebody I'm friends with.
That's a little crazy.
And but since he's come back, he's super successful now. He runs Pace Morby's sales team and a couple other big sales teams.
I just laugh. I feel like I have a lot of desire and drive to take action quickly and do stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if I have the balls to be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm out for 4 months. I'll just start over again when I come back. I'm like, that sounds a little much for me.
Yeah.
If I was 21, maybe.
Yeah.
I got out of the Navy at 28 and came right to this job.
Well, he got to the point where he's like,
I should have took a few months off to decompress between the two, Yeah.
Well, he got to the point where he's like everything on his vision board, right? Like the penthouse in Vegas, the cars, the women. He's like, what do I get? More of this stuff? I'm still not fulfilled. So like that was it for him. He's like, I got to find what this is all about for me. And again, like I said, he came full circle. He runs a couple really high level, sales teams now, and he's got his own coaching program. So it's really just, at the end of the day, we all work in whatever capacity we're working in to enhance our living situation, right? Whether it be money, freedom, family, whatever the case may be. So like, if it's not working, that's where the end is, man. That's why I just walked away from my financial industry career. I was like, well, I'll find something else.
I gotta do something better, something I actually like,
Yep.
So I got a off this topic question for you, Chris, because as I mentioned earlier, my start in entrepreneurship was at 18. I got my life insurance license, and for World Financial Group, I know you're familiar with them. And I was involved with that company for 3 years, became the youngest marketing director, which is like right below their senior broker promotion in Tennessee. I was like 19. I got the promotion, and I was planning.
That out of the Franklin office?
Yeah. You know Rob Day?
Yeah.
Kevin McGinnis?
Yeah, back when Coach Burt was still hosting his stuff over there? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, man, I was there in that day. So that leadership team there was what I was like. I was in among all those, and some really now high caliber leaders are involved in that organization. And so the leadership development, you know how it is in MLMs. Leadership development is like the number one thing that all of them focus on, because the more distribution outlets you have, the more stronger leaders, the more sales, the more money you make. Anyway, it's regarding like the angle that the conversation you had with that individual that approached you about whole life insurance. And that's what I sold. We were selling high premium IULs and whole life policies and
Yeah.
doing all kinds of fun stuff with that. And I've heard a statistic, and this is where I want your feedback on that. I've seen these policies get like a bad rep because of new agents coming in, young guns like me. The fact that they can go based on the commission option or the face amount, death benefit option, increasing or level, or several buttons on the calculator, the Illustrator software. They can change their paycheck based on the annualized premium with a click of a button and either screw over the client or totally help the client by how much money goes towards cost of insurance or not. And
Yep.
and so like I noticed that when I was involved in the whole game, there were a lot of people who were teaching those kind of practices that would make a policy implode within 2 to 3 years. So
Yep.
from your perspective, I like what you do, and this is why I moved into the private side of things and like working, independent and also with a wealth management firm here in Murfreesboro called RAI Advisors, is where I was working for about a year. That was before I got married and also got divorced, so we share that in common as well.
Attaboy.
Yes, sir. The D Club.
Who's out of the way?
No Diddy. Anyway, so regardless, I appreciate what you do because you're actually helping people educate around why we're doing it, what we're doing it, what the goal is, and doing the best thing for the client. I heard a statistic, and this is a question I have for you, that like 85% of these policies that they're projecting on the illustration, they don't reach the maturity. Like they don't reach what the client says that they're going to get. Like you're going to get a 6-figure tax-free income for life.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. We got introduced to a couple out of Ohio, and they have a strategist out of Florida, and they run a very successful financial business, or not, I'm sorry, fitness business. And the person was like, "Hey, you should look at doing these IULs," and they were going to put about 200,000 on the husband and about 200,000 on the wife, and they had the discretionary income to cover the 400K, and their business coach is one of my clients, and he was talking to them about it. And then they asked them to call me so I could kind of audit it a little bit before they pulled the trigger on it. And it was amazing because the way the thing was built in the IUL structure, you got to pick all the sub accounts, and you have to pick at least 2. It doesn't let you run on one sub account. And the way that this person out of Florida built it was the 2 highest performing sub accounts split 50-50, whereas the rate that generated from that was about 7.2. Yet the illustrated indexing inside the actual policy itself said the average should be 5.4. And so they're running a 7.2% target. Where 5.4 is the, hey, this probably won't collapse if you're building for 5.4 and higher,
Yeah.
And so it didn't have 4 or 5 funds. It didn't have multiple sectors. It had the 2 highest performing sectors in there, which made no sense. And then from there, it had the clients running it super preferred plus or whatever it is, the highest rating. So the internal rate of return looks the greatest, and the cost of actual insurance looks the lowest.
Right.
And then it's still, when you ran them through the illustration, here they are at 35. The midpoint one still imploded by 72 because this person's getting them putting 400K in, 200K each, and it's showing them pulling out 300K for life because the policy has that one little button you can click with the, auto loan provision, so anti-lapse. And so you can click the button and it says, if the policy gets ready to lapse, the insurance carrier will take over the payments for you, which then jacks the illustrated side up another 20-30% because you're now running at max pull out. And so I'm showing her, I'm like, hey, here's 5 things that are just big glaring issues that I'm worried about if you had this. And it's not that you can't afford it, but I think you're way overdoing it on your first one. Maybe we should do a smaller first one and then build a secondary one. Also, they had them injecting money for 7 years and then
Okay.
stopping. So
Hmm.
really, they should have been doing increasing face amount, increasing
Yeah.
death benefit over the 7 years. So the cost of insurance was actually lower, but that meant the commissions would have been almost half
Yep.
versus the
That's what I'm
premium
talking about.
to
Yes.
have higher. And so this dude built it saying that this came out even better than I thought it could be, and this, that, and the other. And I'm telling her, I'm like, listen, not to like poo poo on this dude's parade. I could take this entire illustration and actually juice it even more. Like a couple changes your guy didn't even do, and it's even more dangerous. Like, here's why it's so dangerous. And the way they were pushing for death benefit, we were literally looking at $1.8 million going in and 4.6 million coming out over a couple years, over 20-year time frame or so. And I told her, I was like, if this thing implodes at this 5.4% rate that it credits at, if it imploded at this 5.4, you would have put 1.8 in, you would have pulled out almost 5 million. You're going to get a bill for $3.2 million from the government the year it implodes because you have a $3.2 million gain. And then you're going to owe taxes on it that year. She's like, no, that's not what he said. I was like, but that's actually how it works. And so, can you just top those off? Or just, yeah, thanks. We're reloading the coffy cups.
Good. Keep going.
So now we would have put $1.8 million into this thing. And what are you doing? I love you. Just give me this. Hold on, boys. 1 second.
Get your coffee, man. You're all right.
All right, we're reloaded. We reloaded. And so, anyway, so I'm like walking her through this whole thing. I was like, so you're going to spend $1.8 million for 8 years. You're going to draw on this for 26 years. It's going to implode 27 years from now. So you're going to be 63, 64. Your insurance for this entire legacy you're trying to build will not exist anymore. And you're going to get a $3.2 million 1099 for all the gains that were pulled out of this policy that no longer exists. And you're going to pay taxes at whatever the tax bracket is 26 years from now for people making over $3 million. Now, I'm not saying the federal government's going to raise it back up again, but there's been times where if you made over $1 million, your tax bracket was actually 90%. So if it went to 90%, you will owe $3 million on this 3.2, and I'm assuming you're not going to have the $3 million elsewhere. If it just stays at 33%, kind of where you are right now, you're going to owe $1 million on $3.2 million. But if you use this as your supplement to pull all the money out to stay tax-free, I'm assuming you spent all of this money over these 26 years, and you're not going to have the $1 million to cover the tax bill. And now you're going to be 63 with a sold company, not working, and now you have the IRS on your ass to come up with a payment plan because your policy never performed like you wanted it to. And now you don't have the $10 million of death benefit that you said was really important to you guys because you just had a kid. So what if we just placed 20-year term insurance for now, and we put $5 million on that, $5 million on 30-year term insurance, and just get that piece done, figure out where your actual underwriting is, and then we can build a much smaller, maybe 100K a year for your first year. And then if things keep going well, maybe we'll add another 100K next year, another 100. We'll get you up to the 400K, but do it in a manner that safely gets you there. And if we need to stop along the way, we stop along the way, because you already just said you may sell your company at the end of this year. So you don't really want to inject 400,000 for the next 8 years, do you? No. Okay. So let's take a break. But the only reason they wanted it is because the illustration looks so good.
The sizzle.
They're like,
yeah, there's a sizzle on the illustrations.
I mean, they were going to have 6 million out, basically 5 million out on 1.8 in over 26 years. There's no way a life insurance product that is not designed to be an investment, but designed to be a legacy piece and a non-correlated asset. There's no way an insurance product should be generating 2.5 times what you put into it over 26 years while you're bleeding it down the whole time. Like,
yeah,
conceptually doesn't make sense. So I went and looked at it. 160% comp.
Oh my gosh. That dude was going to be getting
Bank. Bang.
Annualized premium at
Yep.
160%. Oh
Comp.
my gosh.
The term
Yeah,
insurance, 40% comp.
right.
Whole
Exactly.
how I build it a lot, we're locking 20-25% comp. And I'm just like, this is why it's so high. Like, dude is like, he's buying his Ferrari right now, waiting for you to just agree to this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I
And
just feel
so
too
many
dangerous.
people have done that. So many people said yes to that and not known because if you know the illustration software, like you can. Some people are like so enamored with how professional it looks and like its numbers, its
Mm-hmm.
statistics, and they don't know how to look at the cost analysis report to see what
Yeah.
the internal rate of return on the monies is. So like all these other things. So I could geek out on this for a long time. But what were you
I
about to say?
laugh because, like, I don't write IULs. Um, I know why people do. Fully love it. That's how they like it. Personally, for my business, I don't like IULs because I don't want to tie the stock market to the insurance. I want them to just be two separate buckets. So I write whole life when it makes sense for permanent coverage for clients.
Because
And
it's
it's
attached to
funny
the cash
because,
account, the general account.
yeah. And so the whole life may be more expensive on an annual basis because we're doing a 10 pay or maybe a 20 pay. So they're fully done in 10 or 20 years because there's no internal costs anymore. Mortality expense, everything goes to zero. These IULs, yeah, you can say you're paying zero, but there's still an internal cost every single year. And the clients aren't realizing that. So they're like, you cost me $50,000 a year more than this would have been. But then we actually break it down when they show me. I was like, yeah, but you're actually going to spend $4 million more on this one than you will on the one we did. And they're like, oh, what? More? Because they just, the way they can manipulate the software,
Mm-hmm.
people look at, so you're telling me I get more death benefit for less premium and it makes more money? I'm in. And there's nowhere in the world that works. You know, it's like going and throwing Nvidia and GameStop into a model and saying, listen, this portfolio crushes every other company in the world, but all you're doing is trading Nvidia and GameStop in the last 6 months. So yeah, of course it looks amazing
Yeah.
until it.
So this ties back to doing the right thing by the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin, like to tie it back to a more relevant, like personal experience that we've gone through, like a lot of these new agents are in this place of scarcity. They get sold a dream, they get sold on this lifestyle that they can have by going and getting their license and becoming minimally professional in a regard to be able to write these policies for people. And they have commission breath, you know, they're in a place of scarcity. So they compromise on the best interest of the client to get a paycheck and to manipulate the software. Well, you know, in our business, same thing, man. Like if we're in a place of scarcity, like we're going to do subconsciously what we think is best, but it might not always be the best thing for the client because it, you know, so what's your take on the whole recruiting thing, on the whole like recruit the world for insurance agencies?
My take or Kevin's take?
But, well, yours.
Okay. I want a
Yeah.
Kevin's take first.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Kevin, okay, then screw
I
your
don't-
answer, Chris.
Hot take. I don't have a take.
Yeah.
You know, Adam Neek, who's a really good friend of mine out of Ohio, owns a payment processing company called Rate Tracker. And we talk a couple times a month about all the different things they have going on for payment processing and stuff. And he started at a company called Heartland, massive company, really good
I
company.
have a Heartland policy
Yep.
for
So
like
he started there on their payment processing division on how to do stuff. And you know, he was telling me when he got to his first $10,000 of recurring monthly income, Heartland gives each person when they get to the 10K a month recurring a portrait, and it's called Out of the Woods. And the whole thing is saying like, hey, you door knocked, you busted your ass, you did all this other stuff. You're at 10K a month. You're completely out of the woods. Like your life is good. You can do anything and everything now because you've moved through that hurdle. And it was very interesting thinking about it because all of us have such a needs base to cover. And if they don't have like the backbone of that like 4K a month, 5K a month, 6K a month kind of covered, people are constantly going to shift into that scarcity mode of like, what if I go 2 months without a sale? What if I go 3 months without a sale? And it ends up being a doom loop that we end up putting ourselves in, because now we're like, oh, what if I go 6 months without selling? I got to do this one right here because it's 30K and it's 6 months. But now the client might not even do it, or even worse, the client does it. They're in it for 4, 5, 6 months. They're like, this is dumb. I don't understand why we did this, because you didn't sell for them and their understanding and answering the thousands of questions prior to placing it. You're just like, just trust me and do it. And then the client, now neocortex or bank account are both shrinking, and they're like, I'm out. And now they wasted all this money for 6 months. You're getting a chargeback, and your entire life is doom looping all over again. Whereas, starting in the business, you can go write a ton of disability insurance. You can go write a ton of term insurance. You can go open baby Roth IRAs and show people how to build war chests and just stack cash without making any commission on it. But now you're helping facilitate their foundational approach to everything while you're practicing, knowing that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think the people that can get into that marathon, not a sprint, and I just need to survive for 12, 18, 24 months and do right by the client, those clients are going to take their customer experience and the level of service you're giving them and going to introduce you to people just like them, because they're like, hey, my buddy has never worked with a guy and I told him how great you are. Can you help them? And now you've built a business on serving your clients well, not padding your paycheck. And so now you can truly start finding the different things to do to help your clients in any industry that you're in. And then they're going to naturally want to help you gravitate to finding the right people. But it goes back to where we were almost an hour ago, like not working with shitty clients, because the shitty clients are going to give you their shitty client introductions. So it's really identifying like, what is my ideal client profile? What are their traits? What's great about them? What's not great about them? What do I like to do dealing with them? So that when we have those conversations, like, here's why you're an ideal client, Mr. Entrepreneur. If you other entrepreneur friends who are so much like you need a guy like me, love to have that, conversation one day. And if you don't feel like our level of service is there to warrant introducing us to your friends, I understand that. Please give me feedback so we can continue to grow for all of our other clients, so that we can get to the position where you want to refer us. And that's living in that higher level of need. That's living in that want. It's living in that abundance now, knowing if you constantly take care of and serve people, people are going to want to take care of and serve you. Laws of reciprocity, they want to give back to you. But you have to be willing. They talk about it in the Marine Corps all the time. Officers eat last, right? Inside my Naval Academy ring, I literally had it engraved, officers eat last, to remind you to always be the last to receive and always the first willing to give. Because if you're the last one to take food and they run out of food, then you don't eat. But if you're the first one to take food, and then you won't know if they ran out of food, and you got 4 staff members who didn't eat that day. You have 4 Marines that didn't eat that day. Now they're on the front lines. You don't have enough rations because your plate's full. You don't understand why these guys are hungry. But if you're the last one to take whatever's left over, all of a sudden you're like, we need more rations. We need more supplies. We don't have the right stuff that I thought we did because I was placing myself before everyone else. Right. And it's like that servant's heart that you were talking about, Josh. It's like really finding that way to serve your employees, to grow your culture, for them to serve your clients really well, because they understand you're going to watch out for them and have their back, and they're not going to have to do all the kind of weird, shady stuff. And so that's why I think the whole insure the world thing, everybody be an agent and sell all your friends as a hairdresser, I just think it's a bad model, because the hairdresser person, you're just sitting here saying, hey, if you get me someone to buy, I'll give you 50% of the comp. And here's how great the comp could be. And now they're sitting there explaining things completely wrong, like all these TikTok bozos who aren't even probably licensed, that are just going to see if they can get some TikTok real money. And they got people thinking in 30 seconds, why don't I have a Dubai LLC running a Panama C corporation with my Bahamian LLC trust company and all my insurance is in it, so I never pay taxes? I'm like, the amount of money that it would cost you, A, to set all that up, you don't even make that much a year. B, it doesn't hurt you to pay taxes. What you want to do is mitigate your taxes as much as possible, but not try to avoid taxes because that's illegal. And to be a good human being, we all understand we give back to the communities and the other people that need our help. That doesn't mean you need to be at 38%, but constantly trying to strive to zero by sending all your money offshore doesn't help you either. And then you got to pay all the people offshore and hope they don't sell your stuff or keep it. And then good luck bringing it back to the U.S. because you're going to pay taxes on it then. It's like, I don't understand a lot of the models a lot of people are preaching for people that live in the U.S., but they're like, send all your money out of the U.S. and then just sneak it back in later. I'm like, if you're leaving the U.S., sure, that makes sense. Go build something like that. But I'm struggling in the latest meta on TikTok on how people are trying to preach all this other stuff. And I swear they don't have a clue what they're doing. They're just taking a report ripped off of someone else. And then I'm getting the phone calls because someone's like, hey, I tried to implement this in Jamaica and I had to go get a Jamaican driver's license and I live in Texas and I gave this guy $100,000 and now I don't know how I can get the money back. And I'm like, everything you did was illegal.
Everything. Oh my gosh, man, what a nightmare.
I mean, I'm like, how did you get a Jamaican driver's license? Well, I told him I was going to invest in the country. Did you invest in the country? No. Did you get a work visa? No. Did you even go down there and visit? Nope, but I opened a bank account. I'm like, that's called fraud. Please
what
don't.
What haven't you seen, man? That's crazy.
So I love this job because you're always learning something. Someone's like, hey, man, what are your resources for this? It's like, well, what do you need? I'll introduce you to somebody.
Did like you have one core mentor that taught you a lot of what you know, or does a lot of your knowledge come from your own study and personal experience, just being in the industry 13 years?
Second half.
Yeah.
The vast majority of everything that I've really learned has just come from books, a lot of podcasts, ton of audiobooks. I mean, I probably got 180 volumes on here. And I started, when I first started, I was like, I need to learn everything on how to like trade the market and maximize rate of returns for clients and this, and this. And I really started shifting into psychology and mindset and like personal development way more. And that literally taught me on like how to fortify your mindset so when you have a losing day, you bounce back the next day. How to build a life off of consistency, not off of motivation, right? How to constantly be able to build yourself up because you can focus on gratitude and not focus on like, oh, here's all the things I have to get done this day. And so it's kind of weird where my evolving career keeps going. I've been working or some part of like Ryan Stewman's mastermind down in Dallas for, coming on 10 years now. I've been doing Taylor Welch's masterminds, back when it was like Traffic and Funnels and Elite Gold and stuff like that. Him and Chris back since like 2018. So that's 6 years, going on that. Tony Robbins events. Like I've never joined any of his masterminds, but like gone to a couple Tony Robbins events and it's a complete mind shift. You know what I mean? Like it's just amazing to be able to disconnect from your company and say, hey, I want to go learn how you're helping people open their minds and open themselves up to be a lot more abundant so I can apply that to my life so that I can talk to and coach entrepreneurs who need some business consulting, not just financial consulting, because they're just stuck and you can tell they're burned out and they just don't know how to get out of the burnout. And I think that shifted so much of my financial planning practice because it's not just, hey, we're going to get you 8-9% this year. It's like, hey, man, how do we shrink 5 years of time for you? How do we take all the failures these other people made and we walk you through that? So now you do it in a year and a half where other people have struggled to get it done in 5. What's that worth to you to give you 3.5 years of your life back? And now people are like, that's everything. And so, I mean, I'm convinced I could be charging some clients $84,000, $120,000 a year just for one-on-one coaching like a lot of these coaches do. And they would pay me. I just don't because I don't feel I need that. I want to really focus on their financial side and still get their estate planning done. They're going to have to pay the estate planning attorneys. If they want to get their tax strategy done, we still got to go pay the tax strategist to go do that. Still want to go get a lot of this other stuff built up. They may end up spending 60, 80, 90,000 that year by the time they cover all the bases and things they need to fix. It's just irresponsible of me to be like, give me all 90 because I'm going to tell you to go do this. I just don't.
Exactly.
I feel like, I keep a base of 50 amazing clients I love, and I kind of rotate through 20 to 30 clients a year that I like, but I know they're leaving in a year or two. And so I don't have to have 6 clients at 100K. I have 50 clients, anywhere from 12 to 24 that absolutely love me. I got a couple around 40, and then the team has basically all the ones from 3 to 6 to 9K. But now I'm helping them build all their books in a manner that actually makes sense for them, because now they're not rushing, and we're able to help them concierge clients the right way. And we just kind of bring them all in and then just walk through these mindset pieces. And people will leave and they're like, that is not what I expected us to do today. I'm like, yep, but you just told me 5 things you're grateful for. And look how much better your outcome is from when started this call to now. And they haven't even decided to hire me yet. But I'm like, let's focus on getting you aligned. Let's go make introductions to the right kind of people that can help you fix your ads, go build your website, go do all this other stuff that we'll never make a dollar on. But altruistically in life, it's one of the best things you can do for these people, because you want to love them and then hope they reciprocate and love you back.
Bro. So good.
Love it. Wow. So I don't even really know where to go from there.
I have a few more questions.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Well, you haven't said anything. I want to give you this opportunity to talk a little bit. You're over there in the...
No, I'm good. I'm, there's some of these episodes where I do most of the talking, and then, you guys,
like our last
you
one.
guys have a similar background, so we're good.
Yeah. That last one, I was just like silent the whole time almost. I have a lot of questions. You're a brilliant entrepreneur, man. First off, like just straight
Thanks,
up, I really appreciate your mind and also the way you communicate. You and Taylor kind of, and it makes sense. You spend a lot of time around each other. You guys have a similar model of communication in the way you introduce frameworks and then talk through, apply stories throughout it. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, but I certainly do. So I could listen to Taylor
it's
for
funny
a
is I
long
think
time.
I think we both do it on accident most
Yeah.
of the time when we're hanging out. I was at his house yesterday, and we're literally just hanging out on the couch in his studio and just catching up on life. And we were probably 20 minutes in, and he's like, bro, I feel like we just did a podcast together and we didn't film any of this. What did we do? Because it feels so, when you want to just give to everybody, it feels so good to just be like, let me just teach you. Let me just teach
Yeah.
you. And I think the reason Taylor and I are such great friends, is neither one of us are a yes man for either one. We'll call each other out on our shit right away and be like, your head trash is killing you, bro. Like, what's wrong with you? Hey, why'd you talk to that person that way? Are you having a bad day? Like, and then the staff that each of us have are like, well, I don't want to get fired. And I'm over here like, man, you're being a dick today. What's wrong with you? And he'll say the same thing to me. And I'm like, this is why I love you, because
Yes.
you need people in your life willing to hold you accountable to a higher standard that all of us need to be going to. And the greatest friendships you'll ever develop are the people lifting you up to a higher circle, not the ones that are dragging you back down to the level of life they don't want to get out of.
Oh, that was flame right there, man. We're going to turn that one into a reel for sure.
Just mark that clip.
Yeah, I'm going to mark it right here. Bam. That was good. Yeah.
And, everything you're saying just aligns so perfectly with mine and Joshua's relationship, right? So for the first year and a half that we worked together, we ran a 7-figure sales team together. He was my boss. And then we started this business together. Now we're partners. And throughout the entire process, right? Like, whether I'm in a position of, I'm right and I'm holding him accountable, or vice versa. We've always had just that mutual respect for, like, I called him yesterday. out of the blue. He was on his way out to dinner with his family, and I'm like, hey, dude, I got a quick question for you, man. And I was just like, how are you thinking? Like, what's the thought process that led you up to making this decision, so I can make sure that I know where your head's at, so that if we need to talk about it, we can, right? So like, it was like some messy stuff with some clients, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't anything that, like you said, what'd you say, your brain trash? What'd you call it?
Head trash.
Yeah, head trash. And then, like, I think there was an stinking thinking, I think is something Jim Rohn used to call it. But yeah, man. And I was like, I just want to make sure that I know where your head is, so that you're not creating unintentional negative momentum for our business, right? So I love that, man. Yeah, it sounds like you and Taylor have a similar relationship. That's why, like, Joshua and I are brothers, and we've only spent 4 days together in real life. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool. So,
but I mean,
Yeah.
I think the nail that you're kind of beating around with that hammer right there is alignment. You guys get along so well because of alignment, and you haven't really shared your mission statement or vision with me, but just hearing how you both speak and like how you're conveying stuff, and you play back and forth so well, I just feel like just the energy alone coming off of how you guys talk and how you guys just like bounce back and forth and just everything's happy-go-lucky. There's probably so much alignment in the goal and mission that you guys are trying to build between the podcast and the companies and serving clients so well that a lot of times people fail to recognize that alignment. They just think, man, we just vibing. I'm like, well, you are,
It's
but it's
intentional.
because you're so aligned on how you want to care for and love other people. You can extend trust. Like I posted on Facebook earlier, trust can never be given to machines, artificial intelligence, or rules. It can only be given to humans. Now, you can rely on rules, artificial intelligence, and machines, but the nature of trust alone has to have a reciprocity factor to it. Because if you can't reciprocate the trust back to the other person, you can only at best ever want to rely on them to do what they say they're going to do. But if you can't trust them and they can't trust you, you can't get that with rules. You can't get that with machines because they're binary. They're black and white. They're this what it is. But to trust the other person is an extension of almost faith, knowing that they're going to not stab you in the back. And that's a human emotional stance that will create massive releases of serotonin and oxytocin for yourself because of the pride that you build up from it and the relationship experience you get from it, which you can't get if you're constantly living in fear of understanding this person.
Yeah, 100%.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's why this is better than a 30-minute podcast, bro.
Yeah,
You can't get here in a 30-minute podcast. I had an hour-long podcast the other day, and it was a happy hour setting. And she told me, it was like, yeah, you're like one of 8 today. And I'm like, we have like 45 minutes. I was like, oh man, like this is not gonna be like
we're
this is
barely gonna scratch the surface.
Yeah, we barely scratched the surface, man.
Yeah. All these episodes, man, it's usually somewhere around like the 30 to 1 hour mark, really. I mean, it depends on how open the person is, but yeah, man, the good stuff happens once you start getting past all the surface level stuff. And I love, like, you're right about the alignment, because, even just in my experience with my relationship with Joshua, right, is like we are unstoppable as a company, just as a partnership when we're in alignment. And like we would joke about it, like every time we're not on the same page about something, there's something that blocks us or something goes wrong every single time. But when we're in 100% alignment, when we agree on something, it's like God is just moving mountains and like creating this incredible momentum where things just we joke about it all the time, but it happens every single time. I'll say, like, hey, we need to figure this out. And he'll be like, yeah, we definitely do. And then no later than the next day, somebody comes to us and they're like, hey, we got this thing. And I'm like, that's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Like yesterday, we had to dump a nightmare client. We gave him a $5K refund on his down payment. And we didn't scoff about it. We're just like, it was worth it. Just, whatever. And then this morning we're on our morning meeting and a client's like, hey, I want to upgrade to voice AI. And it's like 4K to build it out and another 1,500 a month. So there it is with interest.
Right back.
Yeah. We didn't even do anything. We just ran our morning meeting and there it is. So.
Did you, on the Deep End podcast, did you see the one with Michael Cochini? Okay. It's like about, how to eliminate the spirit of fear from your life it's episode number 8. You know, okay. Michael, right?
Yeah, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Go watch it, man. I'm telling you, it changed how I pray. So like Taylor has a little blurb in there of a prayer that he got. It's actually inspired by King David's prayer, and it's about the spear of vengeance. But it's just like this method, not even a method, so it's a way of praying. It's like commanding from a place of sonship for things to be moved in the spiritual realm. And so I copy and pasted that prayer. He put it in the YouTube comments, like he took it out of the transcript and put it right there because he knew people were going to want it. And like I sent it to Kevin, I sent it to a whole bunch of my brothers, and we've just been sending it back and forth to each other and praying it. I've been praying it, and then what we prayed for started happening. All of the nightmare clients, all the junk started getting cleared out, but I didn't consciously associate an answered prayer with what was happening. So I had a visceral reaction.
I had to resend it to him. I was like, hey, dude, remember you asked God for this. I was like, you don't get to decide how it happens. You just asked for it to happen.
So
yeah. The greatest things in life is to still allow yourself to be surprised by wonder and joy, and actually be thankful for the wonder and the joy of the surprise versus the negative mindset that comes in with, oh, that was a fluke. Oh, that was just a coincidence. Like that didn't actually really happen for me. Yeah. I know I literally was like, hey, universe, can we like work this out? And then they're like, here we go delivering. And you're like, that was that. And that's just because it was a Tuesday. I'm like, nah, it wasn't a Tuesday, bro. That was manifestation at its finest, because energy flocks to energy. And I've had a lot of those same failures in my business over the last 12 to 18 months, because very high paying clients are like, hey, I'm not renewing. People that I've like gone on vacation with and done stuff with, and they're just like, oh, well, this other guy said he can do it cheaper, and he does the same thing. I was like, no, he doesn't. And he doesn't care about you. He just wants to get paid. And the only reason he's doing it cheaper is because you told him what I charge, and then he just picked the number below that. So, but then I look back on it, and I'm like, your staff sucked and never worked with my staff. Your ability to get me documents and everything were so bad, because you would constantly be like, I'm just doing what I want. Or, I'm just losing money. You can't fix these things. But then you don't talk to me about them. And then you go do them. And then you get mad when it goes wrong and I didn't stop you. And I sit here and think about it. I was like, you're just kind of like a walking time bomb that's going to always be mad at me for something that's happening to you, because you don't give me the opportunity to help you. So while I'm mad you left, I don't ever have to talk to your assistant again. And she just sucks. And my assistant is like, I'm so thrilled I don't have to talk to her ever again. And I didn't even realize how bad it was for my staff talking to their staff. And I was like, yeah, we lost, pretty decent sized client. And my team is already happier and our culture's already improving. And I'll replace them with someone else that fits the bill. And since that person left at the end of April, we've since replaced them with several different people. So it's just like you guys are talking about. It comes back with interest. Really just, you got to ask for what you want and not be upset when you get it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Remembering what we asked for is the hard part for me.
Oh, for sure.
You need to write it down.
When we first started this business, I was telling Joshua, and I'll even say it to the clients, I don't care, I got to tell it like it is, so that, like you said earlier, man, people respect the, the honesty far more, even if it feels like a rigid thing to say. I'll tell people, like, you know, I don't want your money if I don't think on this call, if I don't think I can tolerate you for the next 90 days, like if this is going to be more enjoyable than it is, like, I know there's going to be rough patches. We're going to push you to do things that probably not comfortable doing, but they're all in your best interest and things like that. But ultimately, like, I don't want to marry you for the next 90 days for 25K, because there's somebody right around the corner that's going to be an amazing person to work with, and they're going to get more out of it than you are,
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like
You
you're
only
robbing
have
them of results.
What's that, Chris?
I said you only have so much bandwidth.
Exactly.
Even when we think we can have an unlimited amount of bandwidth, we really only have so much. So it's like we gotta protect ourselves so we have the energy to give to others, not just constantly deal with battery drains.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, getting rid of those vampire energy sucking clients and people in relationships in our life too. Just like putting a no tolerance policy on anything that takes away the positive momentum, and anything, like, cannot tolerate it.
Yeah. We had Josh and I had an interesting conversation the other day. I want your take on it, Chris. It kind of was like an epiphany. It's something that I've known. It's like one of those subconscious things, subconsciously, but then something clicks and really brings it to the surface, and you're like, wow, I've known that this whole time, but that just drove it home for me. And now this is like, it feels like a rule or a law in the universe that I wasn't aware of before. But it was, we were talking about, people who, and whatever your faith is, whatever your relationship with Source or God or whatever the case may be, it's all coming from the same place, no matter what you call it or how you talk to it, right? And so we realized, like, and it's a sad thing, is like, anybody who doesn't have that relationship in whatever form or manner, they're trying to get it from anybody they can get it from here, right? And so it's like, it becomes like, people always talk about like energy vampires and stuff like that, like people that are just so draining that even when you're trying to help them through something or whatever, and you leave the conversation, even over Zoom, it doesn't matter. It transcends time and space. You just leave feeling depleted. And I think it really comes down to like all human beings need that light and that energy from Source, right? And if they're not getting it from prayer or their own connection, then they have to get it from you. And it's just the way that we like realized it in that way was just kind of eye-opening, because it's it takes it from a perspective of like, oh my God, this person's driving me nuts, I need to get away from them, to a perspective of like, damn, like, I'm going to pray for them. Like, I feel bad because there's something missing in their life that they can't get anywhere else because of this disconnect. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to see if you had a take on that.
All right. I feel like a lot of them are victims too.
Mm-hmm.
Self-created victimhood of woe is me. Why did everybody else get what they want, but I don't get anything I want? And it's you think through personalities and you're like, is this person a narcissist? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But you also think through, like, are they just a traumatized person who has a complete avoidant personality now because they're so afraid to ever open up? Because the last time they opened up, they actually got crushed. So they can't rely on their own opinions. So they need to externally be validated by everybody else to prove that they're doing the right thing. But if one of those external validations negatively validates it, it can throw all the other external validations off because they haven't taken the time or the space to say, what internally am I trying to validate and fix to prove how I am a good quality person?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you see so many people with the supercars, so many people with the big houses with no furniture inside of them, because they're like, well, I need the picture of everything I'm doing looking good. I can't afford it, but I need it to look good, because if these people don't validate me, then I'm sucking at life.
Mm-hmm.
When in actuality, some of the wealthiest people I know live on hundreds of acres in an 1,800 square foot house with a 15-year-old pickup and a tractor and a couple dogs, and they're happy as a clam because they drive all their validation from themselves and the hard work that they know that they're doing and creating in the world. So I feel like, you know, it's not even so much like if they're not praying every day, they're not going to get what they want.
No, yeah,
I feel like it's if you're not communicating with yourself, even more on a most intrinsic basis of what is it that I truly feel like I'm missing, and having a real conversation around yourself on where do I feel gaps and emptiness. If they can't address and acknowledge, I feel a gap and emptiness because of this thing, they don't know how to even start asking for ways to get out of it. Because we have to live in that wonder and joy of how great life can be and love those surprises and let everything take care of us. And if they don't have that relationship at all, they have to find a place to start to build that relationship. And so a lot of times, to me, it's like, hey, I get what you're talking about. Stop right now. Just give me 5 things you're grateful for. No, go ahead. I got time. Let's right now. 5 things. I'm like, no, we ain't going anywhere else in this meeting. Hit me 5 things. And then they'll do it. I was like, feels good, right? Now, why are you grateful for those things? Because I'm like, okay. So internally, you realize those 5 things are important to you. And more of the vision that you're trying to create in life needs to be crafted around improving those 5 things even more, and maybe finding a few other things you wish you could be grateful for. You just don't know how to be. And now there's almost a starting point for people that have probably never had anyone in their life try to give them a starting point, because they just want to go running headfirst into the brick wall every time and say, eventually I'm just going to smash it down. And brute force has been the answer for so many people, but in actuality, sometimes they just need love and some patience, and then someone showing them the light and the way home safely as the example of, hey, when I started doing this, here's how my life got better, and I didn't need that external validation like I thought I did.
Right.
And so our desire and willingness to go become the example for others and allow our vulnerability to transmute to anybody reading what we're posting or seeing what we're talking about, and then understand the journey that we've gone through, allows others who are so afraid to take that first step to muster up the courage and energy to try to take that first step, even if it's a baby step along the path of getting moving, because otherwise they're just going to be in the same spot a year from now, because no one's ever had that ability to just be like, here's how we start.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's like I came here for a financial planning session and wound up having therapy, and I discovered my true self.
Yeah.
I love that angle, though.
I sold my company and I live in a treehouse in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the gratitude thing reminded me of something that, I've always, when my wife and I were younger, I used to have to constantly remind her, like, I would say gratitude before attitude. Anytime she started getting a little too too much negative momentum in any situation, right? And it kind of like it feels like gratitude and like attitude or ungratefulness or complaining or whatever. It almost operates by the same laws as the financial industry. It's just like debits and credits and like exponential interest when you really start creating that momentum with the gratitude versus like you get into the negative too far. Now you're getting hit with overdraft fees, and like it's incredible.
That's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I've not heard that comparison
you can extrapolate it forward to your integrity bank.
What's that?
You can extrapolate it forward to your integrity bank. Are
Yeah.
you depositing things with integrity, or are you pulling things out without integrity?
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to overdraft, but then your word's not worth anything because you can't even follow through on the things you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what kind of relationship does that create with yourself? Eventually, over time, it erodes your confidence.
Yep.
You can't even keep your word to yourself. Something I heard from Ed Milet. But Talk to me a little bit about the future of where you're headed, man. I know that like you're lighthouse planning, and if you're standing on the top of your lighthouse, what do you see across the horizon?
Lunch.
Lunch? It's about that time.
So that's where I'm heading.
Yeah,
Heading to lunch.
it's a
Uh,
pretty short
for
term.
me, so like, we started Lighthouse in 2019. In 2022, I started the Chris Robinette company as kind of like a different arm for being able to go educate, coaching, consulting, figuring out if it, writing a book eventually, things like that. And it's been great because I can go speak on leadership and I can go speak on getting out of your comfort zones and no longer being complacent in life and such. And so for me, like, the future is really finding a few more really high quality financial planners that can come in as account concierges and want to kind of generate their own business and then be under the culture and livelihood of like how we're wanting to train our planners to really take care of their clients. I actually want to trim my client roster down. So I want to keep even more of just the clients I absolutely love talking to and seeing all the time. And then the ones that are just kind of like constantly rescheduling or like, hey, like this is great, but I don't value you. Basically, I don't value you anymore kind of clients.
Hmm.
Either give them off to the other guys on the team that are looking for some more business and maybe their personalities mesh better. Our broker dealer has 7,000 ish, agents around the nation. And last year I finished number 3 in the nation for financial planning. So as far as like looking out and seeing where things go,
Congrats, man.
I
Dang,
feel
bro.
like
Just blaze over that.
the way that we're doing planning and the way that we're wanting to help people is much more altruistic than how a lot of other people do it. And so my next big milestone I really want to hit is being the number 1 planner for the broker dealer. Just even if I just do it once, just so I can be like, man, this is it. I hit that achievement, and I just keep pouring back into clients and how it works.
Yeah, you've
The goal at the beginning of this year was by the end of 2027, we'll have about $2 billion under management. A lot of that's going to be dependent on the new advisors that we bring in and how they're helping grow wealth and how we can use those proceeds to pour back into Nashville and communities and charitable events and stuff like that. I kind of thought I was never going to get married again, but over the last several months of just doing a lot of my own internal journey and personal work and stuff, I'm kind of like, maybe I do need to find that alpha queen, feminine type woman out there who wants to like constantly push me to be better and constantly find ways for us to build and grow an empire together. So that's kind of come back on the radar. That was off the radar for a long time, and now it's kind of come back on the radar of like having that person to do 46 years of life with would be great.
right.
Other than that, I just hanging out,
Hanging,
seeing
having
people. I
fun.
want to travel, see clients. I want to have more time to go speak around the country and pour into veterans and pour into young leaders who are trying to find ways to grow and help create inspiration and ideas on where they can go.
I love that, man. Yeah, it sounds like as far as business is concerned, I mean, you've got a well-oiled machine going, and it's kind of like you know where you're heading with that. But at at this juncture, I relate to the marriage thing, and mine wasn't even that long ago. But I believe I was meant to be a husband, and that's a part of my identity. And I think that just because one bad apple happened doesn't mean that I have to give up the whole thing. So I can relate to that, man. Uh, I wasn't expecting that kind of an answer, so that's good. And but it's good you have the financial target, but it's just like the financial target for the company is just like it's gonna happen, right? So it's not like the big thing for you. It's more about having fun and relationships and people, and I love that.
I mean, each person we can help get to an exit and to retirement and then through retirement. That's the legacy that we're building. You
Yeah,
know, how do we keep helping people? And then we'll be adequately compensated along the way for doing the work. And so we help a lot more people achieve their goals and their vision, not my goals, not my vision. Then I can empathetically focus on their unique situations with joy and Here's some reasonable expectations. And now I can have those long-term relationships because they're getting served by us as well as we can, and then constantly willing to give us feedback on, hey, can we do more of these or less of these? Hey, can we shift some of this or that? Or, hey, could you fly out and talk to my team one day? Or, hey, could you hop on a Zoom and, pour into all these other business owners that we're coaching? And it's like, yes, we'll find a way to do it. Yes. How can we help make your life easier? Yes. And so
Beautiful.
It's been enjoyable.
Well, good. Kind of feel like we're gearing down here. As we're wrapping up, Kevin, you got any final thoughts?
No, man, this has been awesome. Is great meeting you, man. I've been captivated by a lot of the things that we've that you've dived into with us, man. I'm looking forward to moving down there and getting to meet you in person and doing a little happy hour and some cigars and kicking back. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't have anything else. I think this is a good time to hit the pause on this, and we can hang back and just kind of shoot the shit if we got a little bit of time.
Sounds good, boy.
Cool. You got anything left for our audience, for those listening, Chris?
Everything I said is my opinion and not the opinion of my broker dealer or anyone else I work with. And if you ever want to talk to me, feel free to reach out. However,
yeah, we're gonna put all this. We're gonna put all of Chris's stuff in the description so you guys can get in touch with him. Don't bring any lowball stuff to him. He's gonna have to give you over to one of his advisors.
That's perfect. Those guys got to eat too. So
yeah, that's right. I'm just kidding, but that's perfect, man. We're gonna go ahead and cut it off here. See you guys.